Okay, and we are live. Everyone watching this can't see the interview on the back end, but when we use Be Live TV to conduct these interviews, they do this really fun countdown. So at the end, I'm always like, and go.
It's like a movie set.
Yeah. In other news, I am really excited to talk to a very, very special guest today. She's actually someone that I know personally, have worked with personally, and I just can't say enough amazing things about this beautiful being that you're seeing in front of you right now. Her name is Solara, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce her with kind of a more formal bio. It looks like we have some people joining us live already. Say hello in the comments. And then we're going to get into our topic of today, which is flow, or in other words, flow state. We're going to get into kind of the scientific, energetic mechanics of flow state, what that looks like. Solara is kind of an expert in this, so I'm really excited to have her talking to us about this because it can be a really like woo-woo, frou-frou topic. And I think she grounds it really, really well in science. So without further ado, welcome to Solara Rose. Solara is an international channel and catalyst for high frequency flow mastery, superabundance, and thriving divine success. She has been described as the modern Tesla of human energetics and living vortex of cosmic magic. With a background in intensive personal transformation, integrative science, philosophy, and psychology, she's who visionary leaders seek out to support accelerated quantum growth in all areas of their life. She uses her unique multisensory abilities to support individuals and organizations with embodying their expanded self so that they can actualize their genius, maximize their impact, and upgrade their wealth in service to the collective. Her passion is to inspire and unlock the peak potential, beauty, and creative brilliance in others. What a bio, what an intro. I love it so much.
Oh,
And just to give a brief little insight on the training today, what we're going to be, the flow of what we're going to be talking about, we are going to kind of talk through certain fundamentals, certain practices that we've talked about before this call, and then we're going to save some time at the end for some Q&A. So you can be commenting and adding your questions as we go, but we probably won't get to answering them until the end. So just something to take note of. So Solara, let's talk about flow.
yes. I'm so thankful to be here.
Hello. So to kick us off with this topic, I just want to hear from you, like, what is flow? What is flow state?
Yeah, so flow is actually defined as an optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best. And so if you think about this, if you just break down the definition itself, it's quite exquisite because the first part of this is an optimal state of consciousness. And consciousness is awareness, focus. What are we thinking about? So in the coaching industry, we might think of this as mindset, but it's where are our thoughts being directed on a moment-to-moment basis? What are we thinking about? Are we amplifying in our lives, ourselves, our surroundings, or are we in a more negative mind space, or are we in the space of positive expectancy? Are we expecting success? Are we expecting good fortune and things to come to us? Are we expecting to experience rich intimacy in our relationships? What are we expecting? So what is our consciousness focused on? And then the second part of this, and this is the best part, is when we feel our best, where we feel our best. So one of our primary focuses in our day-to-day life and with our rituals and with our practices is to cultivate advanced feeling states. Where do we feel the most exhilarated, excited, turned on, lit up, inspired by our lives, and what can we do to cultivate more of that? So the way that I like to look at that, of course, because I'm a romantic, is who are we when we're absolutely in love, when we're in love with life, when we're in love with somebody that we meet for the first time and we are in that honeymoon phase and we're just head over heels and we've got the butterflies and you're excited about everything, in life. And you do everything to keep yourself in the best possible shape and mental attitude because you're in love. So that's immediately off the bat here. That's one of the things that you can start looking at in your own life and your own experience is, who am I when I'm in love? And what are some of the lifestyle choices, practices, habits that I maintain when I'm with somebody that I just meet? Or if it were to be, maybe a week before your wedding, how would you prep and prime yourself for that experience? So part of this, and so then the next part is where we perform our best. And part of getting into that performance is living in a state of readiness. So would you be ready if your dream job landed on your doorstep tomorrow, or if you were asked to speak in front of, hundreds, if not thousands of people, or if you were to meet the love of your life, or if you're going to get married? What would need to shift in your reality in order for you to be able to meet that high level expanded desire that you're calling in? So those are just some things to self-reflect on and contemplate and have fun with exploring. So my big thing with activating these flow states is to make it fun. All of my programs are centered around this because I don't want it to feel like work. I don't want it to feel like you're trying to transform yourself from a space of lack, but rather from a space of abundance and building yourself as the masterpiece of your life, not because anything is missing or broken, but because you love yourself that much, because you're already whole, you're already complete, you're already held in a state of perfection by the universe, seen from a state of perfection. So how can you see yourself that way? And then adjust your lifestyle accordingly. So yeah, those are
Yes. I can tell you're already channeling, you're already flowing.
yeah.
Speaking to Solara, it's just messages are like being pulled from all sorts of dimensions straight to whoever's listening. So I love that that's coming through already. And the question that came up for me is, in a very practical sense, how do you know if you are in flow or if you're out of flow? What are some like symptoms of being out of flow?
Yeah, so if you're in flow, you feel amazing. And if you don't, so a few different things. So if your energy feels really open and expansive and wide and sunny and bright and hopeful and enlivened, then you're in a flow state. If you feel contracted or heavy or compressed in some way, and so another thing that's coming through in this moment is, so depression. If you feel depressed in your energy, like you don't want to express yourself or you don't want to be visible, that's a symptom of not being in a flow state. But if you feel open and bright and you want to be visible and you want to express yourself and you want to perform, then that's a way that you know. And I also kind of like to reframe performance, because performance can be looked at as just purely accomplishment, but I like to look at it as creative performance, in a way of, if you were going to get on a stage and perform, who would you be? How would you act? How would you show up? And so I like to look at it more from a creative space instead of a hard, like goal-driven space, because it just allows the energy to breathe and expand more, and it's more exciting, I think, from that perspective.
Yeah. So it sounds like the focus is more on who are you, how do you show up, how do you feel good, and then naturally creating and executing from that place rather than the reverse.
Yes, absolutely. Because we can get a little bit too hard on ourselves if the energy is too contracted, like, oh, I didn't show up and perform enough today. And that actually like creates the exact opposite result that we're looking for, which is openness and expansive. So it's like, who do I need to be, or what do I need to do to get into a space of pure inspiration that motivates me to take action out of the sheer joy and pleasure of creating? So anything that we create is going to carry the frequency of the place that we're in when we're creating it, and that's going to determine the result that we get from that creation. So if you're looking to, and I've actually had this happen, I had somebody recently shift their income from making $2,000 a month to $25,000 a month in 3 weeks, because they made this shift in their energy. But going into all of our creations from a space of inspiration carries through all the way to the result. And so what I like to do is prime people before they even get into creation mode, is take a few days, even if you need to take a week, and give yourself like a cabana experience and just luxuriate yourself, pamper yourself, go into a visionary space, set everything down, go play, have fun, get your energy primed first, and then go into a creation space, create from there. And then the results that you get from that creation are going to be amplified exponentially. It makes the whole thing fun too. And what you'll realize a lot of times, a lot of my clients experience this, is that in the space of actually setting down their work to go play and have more fun, because their frequency was amplified, they were creating results in their business even when they weren't working in their business directly. And so another benefit of flow is that you can accomplish in a high frequency flow state in one day what people accomplish in a 5-day work week. And your results reflect in a similar way. You exponentially amplify and maximize your capacity to create results in a short amount of time with a higher frequency than a slow frequency. And then on a scientific level, a slower, lower frequency translates to a slower manifestation of the physical desire. A higher, faster moving frequency speeds up the physical manifestation of our desire. And that's just how frequency works on a quantum level. So it's all just a matter of preference, right? Like how quick do you want the thing to show up in your reality? And are you committed to maintaining the frequency? Because in a quantum universe, these shifts are instantaneous, and they've even shown in some studies that flow, when someone's in a high frequency flow state, it has the capacity to create instant healing as well in the physical body. It reduces inflammation. It stretches the mind's capacity and starts to generate new neural synapses, positive neural pathways. It drives new connections in the brain, starts to generate more brain cells. So there's all different types of benefits that this has in the physical body. But so once these initial shifts are made, then the key is to maintain the flow state. And that's where the rituals and the practices come in handy.
So it sounds like you're saying, is there one major shift that needs to happen first, and then you use rituals to kind of trigger and maintain the flow? Or what does that process look like?
Yes, so this is great, and this is something that's developmental. So the way that I like to give a visual of this is, so if you imagine a battery that has a negative charge and a positive charge. So this is so clear cut and sharp, and this is why I love it. And so imagine there being a dividing line between that negative side of the battery and the positive side. So the positive side is the life-enhancing, life-giving, opulent, abundant, producing, generative, fertile, creative, inspired, enhancing side of the coin. And then of course the negative are all the things we're trying to shift out of. And so the major shift here is to shift all of our energy, our frequency, our thoughts, the way that we feel in our physical body. We want to shift everything into the positive. And so once we know that that's the goal and that that's what we're focusing on, is shifting everything into absolute abundance, absolute flourishing, absolute expansion, then there's no need to go into the negative places anymore. We're just completely focused on shifting everything into the positive. And that's what creates consistent flow, is our capacity to stay on that positive side. So I kind of have a bit of we'll call it an extreme revolutionary approach to transformation, is that I don't even really entertain things that are in the negative space. I start cultivating over here, because all of that energy that we spend entertaining things that are in that lower frequency space, it's just energy that we could be putting towards cultivation instead. And so, efficiency and also like wanting as quickly as possible to help people shift into their most happy, successful, opulent, healthy, luxurious, lush lifestyle at every single level as quickly as possible, because this is what we're here for. This is what we all deserve inherently by virtue of our existence. And so my goal as a guide, a mentor, a leader, is to help people shift into that space as quickly and pleasurably as possible, and to maintain that.
That sounds beautiful. That sounds like a beautiful existence. And It is funny because I think, and I've seen this in my own life, like whenever I am really in possibility is what it is for me. It's like when I'm in possibility and I'm already operating in that energy, then things happen positively.
Yeah.
And when I'm stuck obsessing over like what's not going right or what's wrong with me or all of those negative things, even if it's in a productive way, it does tend to take the front seat.
And in whatever from in that direction or momentum in action. So just realize the fastest way that I give it too seriously. So to laugh at ourselves and be like, oh, okay, there I am going into that space again. That's totally okay. It's natural. It's normal. People do it. We have come into this lifetime with all of this ancestral coding that we're shifting out of. Now that I'm aware of that, I can celebrate that I now have all these tools to help me shift out of it instantaneously and go into something else, to shift into a space of joy and harmony. And even if it's just laughing and going, setting everything down for a few minutes, taking a deep breath or a walk, you know, it can be these simple little things that help us.
And I'm going to pause this really quick because I think we're breaking up just a little
How's
bit.
your video on your
My video
am I
is
coming
fuzzy right now, which is fine as long as the audio isn't breaking up, but your audio is breaking up just a bit. So I just want to see if it normalizes for a second. I think,
yeah, that's
okay. I think we're kind of back. It's funny because your picture looks really clear, but your audio just started breaking up a little bit. Technology gods, please just let us have our moment.
that's the reverse for
me. All right, hold on, guys. Technical difficulties. I think she's going to hop on again. In the meantime, what do you guys think about flow? There she is. Okay, she's back.
Cool.
I was starting to tell jokes. No.
It's funny. Everything actually happened in the reverse over here.
Really?
Yeah,
I started up.
And I was totally clear, and then you got bumped off, and then you came back on.
What? This is strange. This is dark magic going around.
No.
Anyways,
not
okay.
In this space.
So refocusing back, the next question that I wanted to ask you was, so as a creator, as someone who I know is like constantly in that inspiration, creation space, just like pumping it out. I know a lot of people watching this are content creators, whether it's for social media, whether it's for coaching programs, anything that they're creating, a blog. And a common struggle that I've heard from people is like sitting down, like they'll have the ideas in their head, but it's sitting down and actually translating those downloads onto a piece of paper, onto your computer. So what would you recommend for people to help them get into that space on command or more consistently?
Okay, so what I would recommend, first of all, is to synthesize the information. So there needs to be a degree of clarity or focus around what it is that you want to pull through. So what are your core topics of focus? So for me, it's frequency and flow, wealth, and then success and creative strategy. So there's these three categories, and I know that whenever I sit down to flow something, it's going to go in one of these three categories. So first of all, just super calibrating and synthesizing the information. So going into a visionary space, first of all, and going, okay, I've got all these gifts, I've got all these skills, I've got all these talents, and there's so many things that I could potentially channel or flow on. How in the heck do I compute all of this in a way that's organized? So you go into that space, you zoom out to the big picture view. If I'm on the grand scale here, performing and offering my best capacity to the world, what do I want to bring forward? How can I synthesize and organize this information in a way that is digestible, fun, and also like what are the core things that I'm going to bring through? What is my genius? What is my mastery? So you want to get clear on what those core areas are, and then you want to go into each of those things independently and look at, okay, now in the dimension of, we'll take flow for example, what is the best that I have to offer, and what is the most important thing that people need in order to thrive in this area? And then you want to break that down into categories. And so there's some level of organization here so that your mind has clarity so that you can channel through on each of those topics at a time, and to not overwhelm yourself with needing to do it all in a day. Allow yourself to get into the space of, okay, first we're going to organize all of this and we're going to break it down. And then we're going to create one day where we go full-fledged, high potency, high powered inspiration into just this core area. I'm going to give it every single thing that I've got in this core area. And the idea here is to be magnanimous. So how much can you give to help somebody in this area? And what is the most expanded or high level of mastery that you have to offer in that area? So you really want to pull through the best of the best of the best of the best that you have. And so going into those core areas, because if the mind's too scattered, it's going to have a tough time getting into flow. So you definitely want to have those core categories, and then how you're going to break down each of those core categories and translate it. So visionary space is always first. You've got to have the vision before you can really channel it through. And actually, being brought to a great example of this is actually Tesla. And he said that before he brought any of his creations through, he would go into the visionary space for as long as he needed to be there until the vision was fully embodied within his being. So until he could see it clearly, feel it clearly, and have confidence that he could transmit it clearly. And he wouldn't take action until all of that was grounded in. So the visionary space is really one of the most potent, activated, vital spaces to cultivate. And that's one of the practices here, is cultivating that.
So with that too, though, how do you make sure that you're not staying in that visionary space for too long?
Yeah, so this is where the integrative work-life balance comes in, and this is really where mastery comes in too, because there's core areas of our life that we have to attend to every single day to be able to access flow on a consistent basis. And I break this down in the program. So I have, because I wanted to make it fun, there's 13 dimensions of super abundant flow mastery, but the 13th dimension is living from a place of mastery. So like me, I come onto this call and I'm speaking directly from flow, from experience. I don't have any, I didn't prepare technically for this call. This is just my area, my zone, and I'm so living it that I'm able to channel it through. But you'll know first of all if you've been in that space for too long, and second, it's good to have, okay, every single day I'm going to be on top of my nutrition, I'm going to be on top of my movement and my exercise, I'm going to be on top of creating something in my business, serving some way, shape or form in my community, whether it's a video, something written, something inspirational, whatever it is, like something, connecting in. I'm going to do something to support my relationships with the people I love in my life, whether it's to send a nice message or to just touch base with somebody. So it's cultivating that balance, and it doesn't need to be anything overwhelming, but it's like watering the garden of your life. Every single day you want to nourish these areas in some way, whether it's answering emails or whatever it is for that day. And that's what keeps the momentum going. So it doesn't need to be the same thing every day, but giving some attention to each of these areas every day really helps. And it will help you to feel more full, more fulfilled. Like you're actually, you're not ever, there's not things
you're not unbalanced. Yeah, totally. I love that. So in terms of, do you have any specific rituals that you love to do? Any like mantras, any, even like, I know for me, my big thing recently has my flow formula, if you will, has been sitting down at my desk, lighting a candle and putting in my earphones and then I'll use my flow timer to kind of like knock out certain tasks. And this is really great for me when I'm just like trying to get certain things done versus trying to like flow content through and really being in that visionary space. That recently has just been happening on the weekends because that's when I have the biggest like blocks of time. But do you have any like specific things that you do to kind of trigger that?
Oh yeah. Well, so I've got a whole, like my whole day is pretty, like I'm in the flow of things for my whole day, but to be prepped to be in this channeling space, first of all, when I wake up in the morning, I have an appreciation practice. So before I even get out of bed, I am laying there and I am soaking in the love of the universe. I'm recalling my dreams. I'm giving thanks for all of the beauty and the miracles that are going to show up for me in the day. And so I have like a morning appreciation practice. And then I'll get up, I'll have a beautiful like smoothie or a juice, and I'll go for a run or a walk or do some yoga. So I'll get my energy flowing, take a nice, I'll call it a hot cold shower, because this is one of the things that you can do to activate flow and to like really freshen your energy. Is every single time I take a shower, I take several minutes of like icy cold, just like imagining that the water is just diamonds, like pouring into me, pouring into my body, pouring into my mind. And it actually resets your neural pathways throughout your whole body. And it resets and balances and harmonizes the autonomic nervous system also. So that's one way. So I do all these things, and then my channel really comes alive at nighttime, because the energy of the city is really calm and still, and everybody's, pretty relaxed. And so the energy is just really crisp and vital during that time. So I'll light candles, I'll burn sage or some organic incense. I'll put on like my favorite jazz music, and I'll put on like really like warm lighting, in the space. And I'll just so I feel luxurious, and I'll lay there with my notebook and my pen, and I'll go into the visionary space with my crystals kind of down my body, and I'll just allow, like, my thing is getting into the space of epiphany and revelation. And I'll just ask questions. I'll be like, okay, so what happens when, and I connect in with what I would consider pure source energy. And I'll just get into this juicy like Q&A, like we're lovers, right? And I'm asking my lover a question. I'm like, okay, so I want to know about blank. And then I listen for the answer. And then I'll get like a stream of consciousness that comes through, and I'll channel it through. And then what I'll do is I'll take that data, that information, I call them uploads, and I'll add them to my own creative projects or my programs or my courses where they're most relevant and they fit in. So it's also a fun way to constantly be building things, but from a more fun space, and instead of a hard focused, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing I'm hearing from you there too is how important it is to really create time for this kind of space. In other terms, it might be described as white space, just having that empty creation time.
Yeah.
And I think, that's been something that I've been really focusing on, is how do I create more chunks of creation time where I can light my candles and feel luxurious, all the things that you said that are just like, even listening to you describe it, I'm like, oh my God, I want to go do that right now.
Yeah.
I think when we have a lot of distraction and noise and we're so busy, a lot of times we're not getting those creative uploads, downloads, whatever you want to call it, because we're not making space for it.
Yeah. So huge, so important to create that. And just even for your own thrival, because you are a creator, you are source incarnate. You're born to create and to expand and experience as much of your desires as you want to experience in this life. And that's such an infinite, open, expansive, flourishing playground that you have to reach into. So going, okay, so now that I'm at this level of my creation and I've called in everything that I wanted to experience at this level, what's next? So to go into that visionary space and to get laser lucid clear on what we actually want. And I know you and I had this conversation too, is to look at like, what do you actually want? If there are no limitations, right? And you're this, you are the creator here playing the game of creation, and you can have whatever you want. What does that look like? No limitations. Go big, go gold, think cosmically. And you start channeling all of that through and start making that a reality for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as you do that, you're also going to align to more. So as you focus on that vision, you're going to magnetize thoughts, revelations, ideas to help you pull through and crystallize that vision in the physical. And you'll also start to attract people, places, spaces, opportunities, resources, everything, the single thing that you need, creative resources even too, to manifest and bring that vision into fruition. So yeah, creating that space is so important. And it just brings this whole added dimension of fulfillment too.
Totally. And that, I believe, is what prevents you from getting burnt out.
Yes.
It's the spaciousness.
Yeah.
It's how much spaciousness do you have to recharge, to be with yourself, to feel good. Because there are a lot of things that we have to do in our lives that don't always feel good. And sometimes we just have to do them anyways. But if you match that with a whole lot of space where you're like focusing on you and recharging, then you're kind of you're at that equilibrium stage instead of feeling like so unbalanced in one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the major reframes that I like to bring to the table too is, my thing is to make the whole thing fun, is to make the whole thing feel like a grand romance novel or love affair with life. It's like, so how can you make your business fun? How can you fall in love with your business? How can you fall in love with your creations? How can you fall in love with your body and the food that you eat and your exercise routine? And so picking things that you love, and that's automatically going to be the highest service to humanity, because if you're flowing through from a high frequency, you're doing it. You're elevating consciousness, and that's really what we're all here to do.
That's what we're here to do, guys. That's it. All right. End of the interview, book closed. That was the message. No, but really, I would love to take just a couple more minutes to see if there's anything else that's coming through specifically on flow or for this group that you're feeling like needs to be said. Then we'll take a few minutes for questions. So if you guys are on here live, you have questions for Solara about flow, about creation, about really like channeling creative energy, like this is all her jam. So take a minute and type those questions into the chat box if you have them. And then I'm going to let you guys know how you can get in touch with Solara if you want to learn more about her work that she does in the world. So first things first, any other messages that want to come through right now?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just, this is the foundation for absolutely everything. And I really want you guys to feel this and breathe this in, that to love yourself deeply, profusely, and profoundly on every level, and to always hold yourself in a state of perfection, and to see yourself from the source perspective, really, which is that you are perfect, you are whole, you are complete, and allow all of your actions to come from that space of wholeness, not from a space of lack or needing to prove or earn your worth in any way, and to really let yourself bask in the beauty that you already are, and to really receive that love on a deep and profound level. So that's just like the foundation, is to cultivate that space of self-celebration, really. How can you introduce more self-celebration to your life on a regular basis to cultivate that rich inner integrity? Because self-confidence, self-value, all of that is going to translate through to everything that you do. And it's really important to know that in the eyes of creation itself, you're held in that space of unconditional love always. And sometimes we forget to hold ourselves there. And so that is a primary foundational practice. And I know that we hear it all the time, but take in the richness of that, the wealth that you already are. And as you take in the frequency of the wealth that you already are, the more wealth you'll be able to magnetize, attract, call in, experience in all the other areas of your life. So that, love.
Yeah, and I think it's just really quick. I think it's the embodiment of that, which is something that you do really well. You just embody this like confident being who is very in love with herself and in love with service to the world. And I think if we can make that less of like, oh, this is just something I do. Like I do my self-love practices and I do self-care. And it's really the difference between that and the full embodiment of this is who I am. I am showing up powerfully in the world because I deserve to do so.
Yeah. Thank
And
you. That, and this is what I mean by your exquisiteness. That's so eloquently and profoundly put, and that's why it's different, because it's not just a practice. The practice is to lead to the lived expression of it continuously, which is the embodiment of it, to be a powerful source of love within yourself and to emanate that frequency out into your moment to moment experience. And really, because this whole thing, we're all one interconnected, interwoven being, as we're here to amplify that frequency and that resonance inside, and then to enhance and elevate the whole, to add and increase life, you know? So
yes. So I saw we have a question that came in. It's a really good one. She says, I'm so nervous to put the content I create out when I'm not in flow. Oh, sorry. I'm so nervous to put the content I create when I'm not in flow out into the world because I feel like it's not at the vibration level I want to attract. Any advice on that?
Yes. So the first thing, so whomever is asking this question, and what I'm getting for you specifically is that you need more like close-knit family connections in your life. So whether that's community or sisterhood or your actual family, but like a safe, abundant space where you can be held and loved and nourished and supported in your full expression of yourself, and to cultivate that kind of family orientation, just within your own sphere of experience. And then also to cultivate that frequency of inspiration before you go to share. So take more time for yourself to play. That was another word that came through specifically, is to play more. So whether that's dancing or going to your favorite places to get a cup of coffee or eating chocolate or going shop, whatever it is that you do to play that makes you feel really good and inspired, do more of that first before you're trying to create all the content. And if it's not in flow, keep playing until it's in flow, because that's the space that you really, that's the level you want to attract at. So that's the frequency that has to be cultivated first. And what I will say on a magical level is that as you, because one of the reasons is high performing entrepreneurs that we don't do that is because we're afraid that if we're not constantly performing, we're not going to get results, or we're not going to experience the outcomes we desire. But often the opposite happens. The more you relax, release resistance from your field and maintain that high frequency, the more things have an opportunity to come into you. If you're going into your creations from a lower frequency, you're already closed off to the reception of what it is that you want. So it doesn't even matter until you get up in that frequency. So a lot of times what people will experience, and I mentioned this at the beginning, is that if you just go out, relax, loosen up, have fun, play, get into that inspired space.
So it sounds like do that first. And I liked what you said about play until you're there.
Yeah. Yeah. Play until,
Like, play until you are in that high vibration state. Yeah. And then I think it also goes back to the spaciousness. That's been a huge thing for me. I've just figured out that right now, since I do have a full load, a full schedule, I can't get into that content creation mode during the week right now because there are a lot of just like strong commitments. And so I've carved out my weekends, which has been feeling really good, of just like learning, playing, creating. And that's what's working for me right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of creating that space, finding the space, and not trying to force it. Like before, I was like, I would have like an hour between calls, and I'd be like, okay, I need to create this thing for my next group program. And And I was just like couldn't do it. I would just sit there like this for like an hour until my
Yeah. It's like, you can't do it anyway, so you might as well go take a break.
Exactly. Yeah. So now it's like I'd rather take those breaks to play and then save that energy up for the weekend when I have more spaciousness.
Yeah.
So that's just what I've seen reflected in my life with that right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Perfect example.
Any other questions, you guys? And if not, I'm going to go ahead and have Solara tell us more about what she does and what she offers and how you guys can get in more contact with her.
Wonderful. So I do all kinds of fun stuff. So I do DNA wealth code activations, advanced high frequency energy work, psychic advising. So one of the beautiful things about my experience at this point is that I can actually see frequency and vibration. So it's really easy for me to look into your field and see what you have happening and going on, so that if there is anything that you want to shift, I can directly support you in that area. And I have a course right now, and I want to offer this to you guys at a really special price. And I really appreciate you guys being here and hanging the whole time. So thank you for just showing up and hanging out with us and having fun and being present to this. And so this course is called Liquid Nirvana, Thriving in the Flow of Superabundance. And it is a 5K course that I want to offer to you guys for $1,000. And so we're going to get into the 12 to 13 dimensions of superabundant flow mastery, the 13th dimension being that mastery. And then we have the Liquid Nirvana Wealth Acceleration Training, which is all about increasing financial wealth, prosperity, and flow in your business. And then we get into lifestyle legacy and success design. So giving you the tools and the resources that you need to flourish in your lifestyle design and also in your business. So we go all the way to the cutting edge of creation with these tools and technologies. This is the best of the best that our world has to offer at this time to help you to increase and expand in all the different dimensions of your life: creative tools and resources, business strategies, lifestyle strategies. So the whole course is optimized and it's fun. It's so much fun. And I just felt compelled to give it for Christmas because it's that time of year, and there's kind of the energy around it too, is it's just really lush and opulent and prosperous. So you can connect with me on Facebook at Solara Sophia Rose, and you can also connect with me at solararose.com. Yeah, those are the main ways right now.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to close this out here, but Solara, just a big thank you from me and from everyone who's watching this, because I know that this video is going to be watched and really have a lot of value for many people to come, because I can't wait to show it to everybody.
Well, I just love you. I just love you so much, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your ferocity and your lioness and all that you do in your business and the people that you serve and in the world, and how devoted you are to showing up and creating an impact. So thank you for your work and for being who you are and for being the fierce feminine leader that you are and having the big, huge heart that you have. And it's been an absolute, yeah, I appreciate you so much. And it's been an honor and always a delight to be here and to experience this with everybody.
We have really great conversations. So you guys should come to Austin and just hang out with us on the reg. Although I think Solara is about to make some big moves, but if she wasn't, you could have some good girl time with us. But
yeah, we'll have a VIP day. We'll schedule it in.
Exactly. All right, guys. I love you all very much. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you soon. Mwah.
Mwah.
Okay. We're gonna